Yo, 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 yo. What is up? Welcome to the premiere episode of the Urban Renaissance Man. And I am your gracious host, Mr. Adrian Lawson. The ladies call me Big Cat because I'm a tiger in the bedroom. You dig? I'm here ready to chop up some good game. And like I said, this is the premiere episode of the Urban Renaissance Man podcast. And I wanted to start this podcast because a lot of people ask me questions about their relationship and about race. And I wanted to start a podcast where I could give people answers from an urban renaissance man, hence the urban renaissance man's perspective. And for those of you who don't know, an urban renaissance man is a black man who is learned, who has knowledge of the arts, the sciences, the maths, who is very well traveled, who is articulate, who can express his ideas clearly and eloquently. And he's also a brother who has some swag about him. He's not a square. You know what I'm saying? He always makes sure that he keeps his hygiene, his health, and his smell always on fleek. You dig? So I want to start this podcast for that reason, to where I just give advice. I want to take calls. And, just chop up good game with the family. So, on today's show, the topic is why social media did not kill Chilvary. And I'm going to go in depth about why Chilvary is dead and what Chilvary is. And we're just going to chop up game. So I'm sure a lot of my fellas out here don't even know what Chilvary is, and that's hilarious to me because that just proves really how dead this shit is, right? I'm sure my ladies know, and once again, this show is not just for the fellas. I know the name, the Urban Renaissance Man, but it's also for the ladies. You can also listen in and soak up some good game too. I'm gonna be dropping some jewels for you ladies as well. But chivalry is the act of being courteous, of being kind, of being accommodating to women. Whether that is, opening the door or, pulling out a woman's chair at a restaurant. Just being courteous and pleasing her every need. And many people say that this is dead, and a lot of females, they say, "Oh, I want a man that'll open the door for me and that'll pull my chair out and that'll give me the world and all this other good stuff." And I tell them all the time that is dead. That no longer happens. That's not something that we do, because a lot of women these days do not require men to do that. They say that's what they want, but when you look at who they're with, their guys don't do that. So I think if women collectively required men to be chivalrous and didn't give them the time of day if they were not, then they would be chivalrous. But until then, it's not going to happen. Because here's the thing, understand. If you look at your grandmother, right? Your grandmother is probably very dignified. She's very classy. And you know what? I'm talking about, grandmothers who are at least 60 to 70 years old. I know some of you niggas out here, y'all got grandmas that's 30 years old and shit. Not them. I'm not talking about that generation. I'm talking about the people who are, just a little bit older. But if you look at your grandmother, she's most likely married. She has children. And, whether if your grandparents are deceased or not, your grandmother, she had kids, she was married, they had a family and all that good stuff. Because if you go back into her generation, this is when chivalry was, really alive. Because back in these days, if your grandfather wanted to court or to date your grandmother, he would have to go to her father. And this was just, regular practice. This is, how things were done. Because during this time, women were put on a very high pedestal, and they were a lot more value and a lot more valuable, because women at this time were seen as the homemaker. They were, they made the home. You know what I'm saying? A home was not complete without a woman, and so they were a lot more valuable. And also, men during this time did not have the social media. They didn't have the phone. They didn't have the internet. And so if they wanted to, interact with a female, they had to do it in public. And in order to do that, you had to go through her father. And so the father would give you his good graces, if he thought you were a thorough guy and that you wouldn't bring no harm to his daughter. And you would go ahead and you did court her. The dad would talk to his daughter and say, look, Herbert is trying to holler at you. So you need to, go over there and talk to Herbert. And that's what it would be. You dig? So, they would court each other. They would go out on dates, whether it's to a drive-in movie or the juke joint or, whatever the fuck was going on in that town. And this is how it was done. This is how you had a, interaction with a woman. You had to do it this way. Now, when those people had children, so these would be our parents, the game kind of changed up, because now our parents, really, as much as they say it was us, were really the first to experience the technology age. They were the first to be able to call each other on the phone nonstop all day with the big ass cord that go through the whole house and talking on the phone all times of night. They were the first ones to be able to do that. They also had the beeper and the pager and the big ass cell phones and all that stuff. So, they kicked that off. So now to, interact with females, it's a lot easier. You don't have to go through a female's dad no more, because you can just call up on the phone. And so women begin to be put less on a pedestal because guys had more access to them. Now, by the women being put on less of a pedestal was not the guy's fault per se. It was more of what the women at this time decided to do. They decided to make themselves available to the guys. They could have said no and kept it old school and be like, go talk to my dad or whatever. But, they changed the way it was kind of done. And it's been done like this really, ever since, up into us. And so you see this practice of guys putting women less on a pedestal because they have more access. And so now females are not requiring men to be as chivalrous because they're allowing them to have more access to them. You get my drift? And so this continued to be carried on and got less and less because you had things like Freaknik and Daytona Beach and All-Star Weekend and all this good kind of stuff. So the act of putting women on a pedestal just kind of dwindled less and less, and people really forgot about chivalry because they're like, well, damn, I don't have to be chivalrous and I still can get play from women. So they just stopped doing it. And eventually it got faded out. And now it's to the point to where it's so dead that a bunch of people really don't even know what it is. So my ladies out here, I'm talking to you. If y'all want guys to open the door for you, to be chivalrous, to do all these things, require them to. That's all you have to do. Make them do it. If you don't make them do it, then they won't. But you guys really are in control because you have all the control. All the control really is in what's between you ladies' legs. That's what controls it all. So if you guys decide that, hey, we not giving these fellas no play, if they're not going to be chivalrous, y'all could do that. But the question is, why don't you? Anyway, that has been today's episode, the first episode, the premiere episode of the Urban Renaissance Man. I want you all to make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that bell so you get notifications of when I upload my podcast. I also want you guys to check out my next episode. It's going to be the premiere of the Renaissance Race Rants. And I'm going to talk about some racial issues within our community and talk about a personal experience that I just had. But anyway, like, comment, and subscribe. Keep it Macish Stackish. I'm out.